worse than fine.
We're talking about James Cook today, so it's fine. I'll say it's fine.
Right.
He's fine. Everything's fine. Thanks a lot there, Jimbo. We love you. Thanks for coming in. I mean, this could have been another 2 months of content. And maybe it still will be. I don't know. Like, he didn't sign anything today.
Yeah. I don't know.
Thanks a lot.
Doesn't sound like it's going to be much of anything.
In the most derogatory way possible, I want to say thanks for showing up. Really, just thanks for really. We couldn't even have the base assumption that he wouldn't show up today. I didn't even get tomorrow.
Right. These guys just avoid. I don't know, man. They are not hitting potholes. This organization. They do a good job of steering clear. It's like they know which roads to go down. I really thought. For sure, at least this. Like, I didn't think it would go much further than this, but that he wouldn't be here for this. So,
do you think he knows that there's a deal that's done?
No.
Because you don't think they would do one?
No. I just think there's too much ground to cover between the two, but I don't know what's in his heart. Maybe he knows that he'll accept, at the last minute whatever it is that they've already offered or something. I mean, I can't know that he doesn't feel that way, but I think if you were still trying to extract your deal or something as close to a deal that you wanted to begin with, then I think you withhold your services. I don't think coming in and appearing to play nice really is a very effective bargaining tool. There's no noise. He's here and he's participating and he says he'll be at training camp, and I don't know, maybe that is just because he thinks that if he plays nice, it'll happen and maybe this will blow up or something when that doesn't come to pass, if he's counting on it.
It's tough to assume that, though.
It is. I'm mostly assuming that he realized, okay, I've done all I can do short of costing myself money, and I know it's sort of backwards, but I think you need the new deal to have the fines relieved, and if there's no deal coming, then maybe you come in to avoid the fines. He did say, I'm here because I like my money today. So the fines are at least a part. He's admitting, I don't know if he's just trying to be funny or what, but I think he's admitting that losing the money motivated him in part to get here for this.
I know, but like I still do not predict that nothing will change. Sorry for the double negative so early. I still think something else will come down the pike on this guy, a compromise sort of deal at some point. And my guess today would be that he knows that. And I think if that's right, and you're kind of predicting that it isn't, if that's right, then the 3 days of fines just get washed away. I mean, one way or another. It's a lot of money in real life.
Sure.
$40,000 a day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
In real life, it's a lot of money, but you come in at $10 million a year or something, and they can erase the fines or not. And you're still in a great place.
But I don't think they can erase them without a new deal.
Okay, no, I heard you say that.
Yeah, listen, that's my understanding. But I'm not ironclad 100% on that. I just know that it's possible in his situation to have those fines recovered or forgiven. But I think you need the impetus of a new deal to build that in. But I don't. Again, I'm not positive of that. But I'm pleased that he's here. From a content standpoint, I mean, I hear you and feel you, but I think it's impressive that he's here. I don't think if you suspected a deal were, I guess if imminent, like if your agent tells you we're going to have this done by this afternoon, go get in there, then that's one thing. But he didn't sound like that talking today at all, really. So I don't think that there's just the hope of a new deal is what got him in here. I think responsibility and the reality that he was going to be fined close to $100,000 if he missed this, and then a whole new set of fines would start up once training camp begins that are even more severe, I think. As this thing goes, it escalates, right? My understanding is it's like $17,000 day one, day two it doubles, and then it's up to like $54,000. So it's like $100,000 for the 3 days, and I can respect not wanting to give that up, especially if you're not optimistic about being able to recover it.
Yeah, if you made $50,000 a year, then this would be a $1,000 fine, and that would be a lot.
Yeah. I would act accordingly in that case.
I don't know. It's certainly fair to say you're impressed. In terms of negotiating, until there is some news, and I'm telling you that I expect there will be, where they get a longer-term deal done with him, I mean, this is terrible. Like, what kind of negotiating was this?
Yeah.
I want $15 million a year. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's a quote. I mean, he's on social media. Maybe he's not saying it to the Bills, but don't say it to us and then not to them. Like, do you mean it, or is it a joke, or is it for real? So I want $15 million a year. Here's the very first day on the calendar, and the season is 4 months out. The very first day on the calendar where your presence is required. And you're like, okay. I have nothing else to do. I mean, just why did we even care?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's part of my frustration is that. Well, it's multifaceted.
Well, we've been talking for months about something that amounted to nothing.
What has this been for?
Which does happen kind of a lot in this business, I guess.
Maybe everything we talk about is meaningless. But
it amounts to nothing.
What was it for?
Yeah.
Did the Bills just think he was kidding? Did they just I don't know. I'm already at risk of sort of over analyzing it. What was it? It's on Twitter. When some other player on another team uses Twitter, we talk about whether he's actually serious. With Cook, we're kind of like, okay, he seems serious. We didn't even really have that conversation. Maybe I don't know what to say. Whether he was just playing around or what, or whether the Bills have something for him and he knows it. Allen's quote: "He's one of the best backs in the league, and hopefully that'll be reflected soon."
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, maybe Allen seems to he's talking like
that's the most encouraging thing toward your thought that there's a deal out there to be made, is that the quarterback is talking like that, and that could be somewhat informed, or it could just be hoping for the best for his teammate, which is innocent enough and might be all that is. But it is a window into, which is not surprising, that the most important player in the organization, I think most players in the organization would like to see James Cook get rewarded, because they would like to be rewarded when they deserve it. That's just the way that works, So I do think Allen, could be giving you a clue that something could be coming, or it could just be supportive, which is not at all surprising. So, just a nothing burger.
If Cook never tweeted anything, if we just had no inclination to wonder what his thoughts were on his, future, we maybe never would have talked about him at all. He's on the team, he's under contract. He'd fit in, he still does. He'd fit into the context of players that you can re-up, like Bernard was and Benford.
Yeah, I don't think it obviously would not. I would say obviously would not have gobbled up the amount of time that it has, but it would be notable that he was omitted if Benford got his deal and Bernard got his deal and Shakir got his deal and Rousseau, even though he was in a slightly different situation, but still got a lucrative extension. Cook being the one who didn't. We'd be talking a lot about running back, and is that why? What is it? But sure, no, it would be. I think the assumption would be that the piece is being kept. He's going to come play the deal out. They probably tried to get an extension done and couldn't, and he's just going to play, which is kind of what I thought. Well, I didn't necessarily think it would happen. I thought he wouldn't be here today, even, but I thought eventually we'd get to that. That he's going to realize, I don't really have any leverage here. I have to come play if I'm going to get the bag one day. It just might not be when I want it to be, which is tough. I mean, I don't feel, I'm glad he's here, but I don't feel great for this guy. He might be about to head down the road of, going into a season and not having any net under him at all. That's why you want to strike when you just had 16 touchdowns and you're eligible for the extension, obviously. Get the security, get some guaranteed money. Okay.
Well, some strike.
Right.
Funny word for it. It's also a word for like a holdout.
Right.
We got none of it. I mean, how does it not last one day? Even yesterday, like you had people talking about, he was on the plane. He was here, actually. Like,
Right.
okay, but doesn't Adam Schefter know that? Guess not, because he was talking yesterday.
Yesterday was don't expect to see him anytime soon. So, okay, so much for that.
Super. Yeah. Good.
That though is
Crisis averted.
You know, that is something I didn't go into his feed to see if he elaborated, if there was anything in between, right? Yesterday's tweet, don't expect to see him anytime soon, and today he's going to be there and fully participating. But if you want to be optimistic that they're going to reach, a piece that includes a contract extension, maybe that's an encouraging sign. I mean, if Schefter was being fed that by Cook's agent, that he's not going to be there, which, I would suspect that's where it came from, but it didn't have to, then maybe something changed in the last 24 hours. And hence he's here. But again, I haven't seen anything to elaborate on the reporting from any of the big heavy hitters. But
I will say, and maybe you want to call me on this in some way, like, what are they really skipping by skipping these 3 days? The third day they go bowling or something.
Usually,
right?
Yeah.
What are they really skipping? Did I see that he took 6 snaps? Like, there's no hitting. It's pretty chill. I mean, for a football practice, it's about as relaxed as it probably ever gets. So there's no real injury risk. How real is T.J. Watt, McLaurin, Jonnu Smith? How real is the threat when you skip? I mean, there's also the voluntary period, which he did skip. But you skip 3 days in June, early June, and okay, so what does that have to mean when you do that?
I don't think it means anything toward your preparation or being there for your teammates and all that sort of stuff, because you can be as ready physically. This isn't going to physically get. It's more just about being united, I think, is the only thing you're accomplishing. You're sending the message that this matters, my teammates matter, winning matters, so I'm here. So really, the only thing you accomplish by not being there is defying the order to be there.
Simply just the commitment to the overall is just achieved simply by showing up.
Right.
That's kind of all they need. They didn't need him to break any tackles or
all you're really
set a
being asked
speed
to
record.
do is show up.
That's it. So from one angle, why wouldn't you just go and not be fined and not cause a stir? Like, why wouldn't you just go? I just say that because now I think the instinct, or not the instinct, but the conclusion you want to draw is, well, there's no issue. He'll either get a new deal or he won't. But he's even saying he plans to be at training camp. Like, there's just not a thing. There's not a thing here like we thought there would be. And, maybe that will be what happens. But I'm just saying that to show up this week and run 6 plays in shorts and maybe do that tomorrow and then go to the Falls, it doesn't really seem necessarily like a big statement.
No, you're hardly.
It seems like I would do it.
You are hardly
I would
giving the impression that you're dug in, really at all. You're sending the opposite message, which is I intend to be here,
but you could still not. That's what I'm saying. Like in July, if he doesn't have his contract that he wants in July,
this could change.
Yeah, then to not be present for training camp, like that. There's no practice like this at training camp, right? Like from the first day, they go hard. That's kind of the point. It's now, here we are, we're together. We're going to talk about the plan. We're going to talk about maybe some certain scheme changes or whatever it might be. New coaches, new players, draft picks. Like it's a thing. But the, DEFCON for missing this week is not much of a change.
It's
but
minimal.
If you're not here in July, that's a bigger deal.
Yeah, I definitely. We talked this through yesterday, just in the context of like your friends, so Bills fans that you're friends with. Nobody's asking me about minicamp. I myself was not, I mean, as much as we're talking about it, I wasn't really worried about him not being there. It was sort of obvious to me that he wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And so,
and you could have said, like, so what if he isn't?
Yeah, I would have said, of course he isn't. He's trying to achieve something that the Bills seem reluctant to give him, and so the only power he has is to not be here for this. And it is the kind of thing that I doubt that the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cincinnati Bengals or the Miami Dolphins are going to be mad at the guys, respectively, that aren't there for this. But you start not being around for training camp and the season is in the window, that's a different thing. So I always thought it would be a much bigger deal, and I said this yesterday. Like, if he's not there July 20, whatever the date is, then I think my friends would start asking again. What do you think about Cook?
That's right.
Is he going to be there? If he weren't there for this, now that he's here for this, it's just like, and he's saying I'll be there in July. Well, then I don't know. Yeah, what? Nothing to see here. Move along.
Oh. Just now, what do we do? Well, what is the? If you do want to assume that he'll be at camp and it's all good, even if they don't give him another penny, which, again, good job, great effort.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to assume that, what's the biggest thing in front of them? If it even was James Cook before, like they really don't have. Well, they don't have another player with any kind of similar situation. You've got a couple guys facing 6-game suspensions, but that's not right now. Like, that's only when the season starts, and they're prepared for that. Everybody knows that. And I don't think I brought this up the other day. Just kind of let me know if you think this is worth talking about. But I don't think we're talking about making a move for TJ Watt or Terry McLaurin or somebody like that. I mean, the Bills, Spotrac has the Bills in like remaining cap space as last, 32nd in the league. Different ways of sorting out the money stuff. They rank differently, but it's not a team that can do anything it wants with money right now. So I don't know, like what is there that's before them? It already was. Now I'm getting a little carried away, but it already was a team that for a few years running, it's really just about what happens in the postseason. Not even the regular season. The Bills are more like a hockey team, a good hockey team that you just know,
right?
Dare I say it, you just know they're going to be in the playoffs.
Who you're going to match up with. That's really all we're thinking about for the last third of the season or more.
Right. Like the last 2,000 Tampa Bay Lightning regular season games have been like whatever.
Right, am I going to be home to play Florida, or do I got to go on the road?
Whatever.
That's really it. Yeah, right.
So,
or Toronto, whatever.
For the Bills, it's already like the regular season itself is kind of, it's not, but it's sort of just a lead-in. I know how I sound. Like I'm not. I don't assume they'll make it this year, but the odds are really good. So it's just like that. And now I'm, trying to find what is it that has to get figured out when it comes to the Bills, and I don't know. Like, really, Cook was you could hear to my voice the sadness. Cook was the one thing that was kind of like out there. I never even thought it was like a big deal that he not show up. Like I don't think it's a different team without James Cook.
No.
But even as somebody that thinks that way, at least we had a discussion there. We had a little bit of a not a crisis. It did not become a crisis.
Sure, no.
We had a story.
You're always going to have the faction of the fan base that is like, shut up and play. You signed a contract. Don't be selfish. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. And then people that love him because he had an awesome year and they should pay him just to keep the peace. And somewhere in between lies probably a lot of people like, I really like this guy, but I don't want to pay a running back that much money and that kind of thing. And yeah, that's all gone. It's just all gone. Like what is left is what? Integrating young guys. Dermott said today we're going to play a lot of young guys on defense. Like that's maybe the most interesting thing about them is that they've got these new pieces on the back end with Cole Bishop presumably stepping in, a rookie at corner battling old holdover Tre'Davious White back for a second stint, and then up front you got all these new moving pieces. Like, yeah, we're into the depth chart and position battles in a way that that's it. That's the next thing on the list. I think after, is James Cook going to show up? And that's I know how that conversation usually goes. It's short and usually barely between us.
The depth chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's time for plan B.
Right.
No holdout.